2, 1, team.
Hello. Here we are. I am your host, Aveline. I'm here with my co-host today, Corey Sebest in Germany. How you doing?
Wonderful. Always excited and happy to be back and looking forward to an amazing story told by Daryl. So let's kick it
Yes,
off.
welcome, Daryl. Thank you for coming and joining
Yeah,
us
thank
on the
you.
Six Star Podcast.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm just here to serve, and hopefully, everyone tuning in gets some sort of helpful nugget that can help them along their journey.
I have no doubt that is going to happen. I can just tell, I can feel it in my bones just by even the way that we jumped into the green room before we started recording. And so let's get started. I've got a few questions for you, Daryl, just to get to know you better. So could you let us know, where are you in the world right now?
So I'm a Canadian, but these days I'm based out of the Philippines.
Lovely. And who do you serve and how do you serve them?
So I used to say I help businesses with websites get customers and keep them, but everyone's got a website. Everyone's been pushed to understand they need a digital presence of some sort. So now I just say, my mission is to help create 200 new multi-million dollar businesses. How? Proven methods, accountability, and step-by-step systems. So I'm really focused on supporting the small and medium-sized business owner. Regardless of politics, it's undeniable that businesses were massacred. It's undeniable that governments and big corporations have taken a much, much, much larger piece of the pie for themselves. It's a fact the middle class is disappearing. So the world's turning into haves and have-nots. And my daughter's name is Malaya, which in Tagalog means freedom. And I really think that the future is on the backs of us, the small and medium-sized business owners. So I'm here to support and serve us. I've been a business coach. I mean, my high school co-op, like you had to do 2 weeks somewhere, was with a company called marketme.ca and bizbound.ca, which were kind of like startup incubators, business coaching services. And that was what I did when I was 17 in high school. And obviously I went out and did different things, but that's like when it started. I was nominated Young Entrepreneur of the Year, my small town. I didn't win, but I was nominated. So for what that's worth. I've just been in this game a long time. I've been helping businesses for over 17 years in various capacities. And at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people were arguing about the science of this, the science of that. And I was an orphan, but I was raised by my adopted mom and my step adopted dad. And my step adopted dad, that man, he worked in applied physics and geology, which are hard sciences. And I had something happen to me. And I'm sorry, maybe we're going out of order here, but I got triggered because I was just doing workshops like on the side. I was traveling around in Vietnam. My daughter had just been born. We planned on having her. We had her living in Palawan in the Philippines. I kind of took an early retirement, made a bunch of people a bunch of money, realized money wasn't making me happy, started looking for my life partner no matter where on the planet they might be. I travel with my dog to a bunch of different countries. I help some of my adopted family overcome some challenges, some substance abuse issues, and that because I knew I wanted to have kids and that my family would be the soil that my kids grow out of, right? The next generation. So I kind of spent 6 months and a few tens of thousands of dollars to help some relatives out. And then I kind of helped my adopted parents retire and just kind of took a mini retirement, went to the Philippines for a couple of years, figuring out what else I wanted to do. And I was working with clients, on the side and whatever. Like it's been easy for me to just kind of get by, so to speak, lifestyle business. I'm doing workshops from time to time. So I don't know if I'm on a soapbox here or not, but while we were in Vietnam, I managed to connect a buddy of mine who was one of the top sales copywriters at Mind Valley, which is like $100 million company out of Malaysia. He was one of their top copywriters, and he was coming through Vietnam, and we were going to meet up. And we were like, hey, just for fun, let's do like a workshop together. Let's like co-create some content, and we'll record it, and maybe it'll be nothing, and maybe it will. So we put 55 people in a room in Hanoi, and then he was traveling. We were going to move to Saigon. We're like, hey, let's do it again in Saigon. Yeah, let's do it. So we'll do an event. He couldn't make it for his own travel plans changed pre-COVID. But I did the workshop anyways. And so I'm telling a bit of a story here, but so this one guy came to the workshop, and the guarantee was if you're not happy by lunch, the lunch break, let us know, give you a full refund. All no, all good. And I had one guy do that. An older gentleman came. He said, this is great content, but I'm no good with computers. And this looks like you need to know how to like surf the internet and that. And he was an old timer, right? And I was like, he's like, I thought maybe this is something I could do when I retire. I was like, you're good, man. And everybody else is cool. We eat my food for lunch. I finished the rest of the 1 day workshop. At the end, this guy's picking my girlfriend's brain because while fresh out of university, no business background, while having and nursing a child from home, she grew a this is USD, 6-figure business as a Filipino woman, fresh out of university, not like no background in business, none of that. Just me kind of coaching and helping her while she was raising a bit. And so she had an agency and he couldn't do it successfully as a freelancer. And he's like trapped in Vietnam teaching English, not making enough to go anywhere. So he's picking her brain after the event. We're packing up all this stuff. After all this, Buddy looks at me. He's like, hey, man, I need that refund. By the way, this has been great, but I need that refund. I was like now? But there's a big announcement at lunch break before, I broke out all my food. He's like, yeah, but I use my rent money to come to this. So if you don't give that back, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. And I'm like, whatever. Like, this is just to help, whatever, cool, whatever, bro. I'm a little peeved. Like, you're taking advantage of me, but whatever. 3 months later, there's a lot of expat Facebook groups in Vietnam. 3 months later, this guy is on Facebook promoting his entrepreneurship manifestation series where he does workshops and meditation groups to help entrepreneurs manifest the business of their dreams. And I was so livid because this guy, he came and ate my food. He paid, you know what I mean? And then he kept us like an hour late and we have a little kid. It's not like we're just got nothing to do. And then he's vlogging. And this is now when he's doing this is like the beginning of the pandemic, right? At least in Vietnam. Vietnam locked down like first week of February. The rest of the world was like, what? But they have a land border with China. They have a long, bitter history with China. They're like, we don't trust you. What's going on? And they just shut the whole economy down. They're like, you're doing it. We're doing it. Whatever. We're in this together. We figure out who we can trust. And so I knew that there was going to be sharks in the water. I could see then that this is going to be like a big thing. And it bothered me because when you're a business owner, and this maybe is, forgive my long rant story, but for the business owners listening, like you have to make decisions and those decisions determine whether you can feed your family, your kids, pay medical bills, school fees, the providers, and some of us stress out, like we don't pay ourselves, but we pay our staff. And the knowledge that we make our decisions on is critically important. And to have some wannabe flogging that he's a business expert, I just was so livid. I first started this thing called the Fake Guru Solution, where I hired these 7 researchers. I'm like, we are going to go through all the academic literature. We're going to find out what the science says that are the key critical success factors of business. We're going to come up with a way to measure it. And we're just going to purge this industry of all the fake gurus out there. I did a preprint. I got my friends from all the like Queen's University and universities in the States and like guys with PhD, and one's a professor in Spain now. I'm like, we need to do this. And we came up and we went through, I spent 50 grand of my own money to go through all these research pieces because lots of people studied success and they all come up with their own factors. Okay, cool. So we're going to say you're all right. What are all the factors you say that matter? And then what are the overlapping common denominator? And so we looked at hundreds of studies, and a lot of these, we specifically tried to find meta-analyses, meta-studies. And what a meta-study is if someone summarizes, like what we were trying to do. We wanted to summarize all the research. Well, a meta-analysis is that. But lots of different people will do meta-analyses. So we tried to collect meta-analyses and do like a systemic review, it's called, of all the meta-analyses. Because one meta-analysis might be 100 or 1,000 studies summarized. And so I spent 50 grand to hire 7 people / teams, because some were groups of 2 or 3, to go through all this and try to make sense of it. And we found 8 critical success factors. And then not only did we know the factors, we actually pulled from the literature quizzes to test someone's proficiency at it. So why is this important? Because as a business owner, you can just make up a quiz, right? But you don't know if your questions are culturally biased. You don't know if the questions are leading, right? If they're leading to the answer to that. So you have to do what's called validating your survey. You have to validate it for those things. So again, I'm just a monkey with a smartphone. And I was like, lots of people have done work. Like right now, none of us created laptops. Joe Rogan says this: if I left you alone in the woods, how long till you came out with a cell phone, right? Like none of us figured out the internet, electricity, these laptops. I always think that when I'm driving down the road, like I am like living on the lives of other humans that went before me. Somebody slaved away in the sun all day, wasn't there with their kids to make this paved road so I could get where I'm going. with speed. And I'm so grateful for that. So we went through the research and found measurement tools for these factors. And then we drilled down on each of the factors to figure out what makes those up. Because there's all sorts of vague things like branding or leadership training. And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. My intent is not to call anyone out per se. It's to be like, what is the truth? Because that's what we need, right? And in business, you get paid for done, and you get paid for being right. And that doesn't necessarily mean you wait for consensus. So so that was it. So we looked at these 8 factors. Should I go into the factors now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a big yes.
So there's 8 critical. Yeah, okay. I can talk, warn everyone here. I was a little kid that would wander away from my mom and she'd find me on a bench talking to an old lady. Like, so you have to tell me when to breathe. And just full disclaimer here, people, I'm here to give away the goods to empower all of you. If anybody needs hand-holding help, we do have programs in that available. But I mean, my daughter needs to grow up in a world that needs you at your best and you to be successful. Like, we really need that, right? I'm a fan of competition. There's my whole life, I've never known participation awards in anything. That's just not, when you're an orphan, that just doesn't exist. So let's talk about the 8 critical success factors. And I'm going to talk about them in the order that I feel they kind of stack on top of each other, but they're all necessary. So first, I'm going to explain the 8 critical success factors high level. I'm going to give a couple of stories of businesses that failed due to failure of caring about some of these. And then if you want, we can drill into some of the pieces that make these up. We're good? Corey, you have your thumbs up approval? He's good. Okay. So the 8 critical success factors are self-efficacy, market intelligence, strategic planning, okay, marketing strategy, sales strategy and sales skill, money management, business operations, and business intelligence, okay? Now, I've got a big spreadsheet with all the research studies. We don't need to go into that, but these are the factors that the umbrella categories. So to give an example, Saudi Arabia did a study on critical success factors for small and medium-sized businesses. They said that individual factors mattered, management factors mattered, the amount of business support, the amount of capital that they had available was positively related to success in business. 2 things were ineffective: the characteristics of the business and the environment the business was in. That's just one. We did another. There's all these studies. Harvard's done studies, all these studies. So we try to take those, like I said, map them out, make these umbrella categories. So self-efficacy is your ability to get things done via yourself and others, right? So some of these are really self-explanatory. Some of them we need to break up. So once we add these 8 categories, we try to, what is peak performance in that? So self-efficacy is specific personality traits, leadership skills, and personal disciplines. So a personality trait you need as an entrepreneur is extroversion, right? We get paid to solve problems for people. If I am not willing to go meet new people, which is an extrovert trait, I can be an introvert, but I have to do that extrovert activity. I'm not going to be very successful. It's going to be harder for me. Doesn't mean I can't. It's going to be harder. So I have to demonstrate. So again, when I talk about these things, it's not like you are doomed to fail because you're not an extrovert. These are the things that, right? Everyone with me here? Growth mindset. Yay, okay. So locus of control. That means being a control freak about what you can control as a business owner. You have to maintain quality, right? You've got the vision. I love the quote, don't expect others to understand your grind when God didn't give them your vision, right? Whether I'm spiritual, not religious, but I just love that. It's your vision, right? So openness to experience, agreeableness, conscientiousness, acceptance of criticism, and feedback. These are personality traits that are positively correlated to success in business. Leadership skills. So again, we said branding, leadership, not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but there's a lot of people that we teach you leadership so you can be successful. Well, there's a massive gap that you just assume to trust. Okay, goal setting. For me, our research, goal setting is not a part of leadership, believe it or not. Not really. It's more of your strategic plan. Leadership is self-awareness skills, communication cooperation skills, emotional intelligence skills, and adaptability. That's leadership. Leadership is about knowing yourself, knowing others, communicating effectively, and being able to keep progress moving forward despite challenges and obstacles. That is leadership. So you see the specificity that we got with these 8 factors, right? Like that was what we were really trying to get into. Just give me the fish, the things I got to, because we've been doing business since we were, exchanging shekels for a thing of wheat. But when you look at business, the category, like it's just like it shouldn't be this complicated, right? It just shouldn't be. And then there's personal disciplines. Like there's time management, but people don't recognize there's also energy management. If you can only run 1 kilometer and then you're like, I need to take a nap, that's your energy gas tank you bring to every day. I got up at 3 a.m. today and it is almost 2 p.m. here. And I'll be like this till I go to bed at like 8 p.m. So, if I could snap my fingers and take you from being able to run 1 kilometer to being able to run 10 kilometers, you now come to your day with 10 times more energy, intensity, and focus, right? So that's just self-efficacy. And I'm going into details on self-efficacy because it's the ones that's not so, right, self-explanatory. Sales strategy and skills we put together because like McDonald's does their selling in impulse level price points, and they do most of their selling in the advertising and things like having a playground in there. So you got to bring your kids. So the level of sales skills their staff need is really just order taking and Q&A. But if you're trying to sell airplanes or bridges, your sales strategy and the skills required are different. That's why we lump those together. Business operations is the other one we get questions about. It's the glue that holds things together. It's your meeting rhythms, your HR, your hiring, onboarding, how you keep your team accountable, where you store your IP, cybersecurity, all that stuff. That's how you manage to operate, like how you keep things moving down the road and the glue holding things together. Business intelligence are the dashboards, the feedback loops. How are we doing? You got your financials, great, but what else? And I can go into way more detail on all these 8, but I talk a lot. No one else has said anything, but I just high level, those are the 8 critical success factors.
I just want to
We'll
jump
breathe
in
now.
quickly, Daryl, so that you can have
Yeah.
a breath, like breathe, please. Have a sip of your water or coffee. And I just want to say, first of all, I love that story. And when you told me that, I think you mentioned the story of the guy that came to that event and basically just, took all for himself and weaseled his way out of paying, and then positioned himself as some guru a few months later. I was like, gosh, the number of times I have seen these people and they position themselves as these experts. And this is it really gets my goat as well. And I love the way you were able to respond and go, you know what? Damn this. I want to figure out what success in business is really, what it really means. And you went and did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's not like necessarily these people are malicious. They're trying to find their way too. I had a friend, I'm not going to mention any names. I grew up with her in my hometown, and she lost her parents at a young age. It was really tragic and unfortunate. She was the rich kid that we all knew growing up because she also got an insane amount of life insurance money. And so she was like the kid coming to school in an SUV, and we were just like applying for driver's licenses, type thing. And I remember I ran into her, we're older now in our 20s, and I had found out that she had tried to have a yoga studio and it failed. I was like, oh, well, what are you going to do next? She's like, oh, I'm writing and to apply for a government grant. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, okay, do it. Like, we're from Canada. Like, cool. What's your project? Well, I want to start an entrepreneurship center to teach entrepreneurs how to be successful in business. And I was like, wait. And I even said it. I was like, so you failed at running a yoga studio. So you're applying for government financing so you can run a center to teach people how to be successful. And I just like left it. Like I didn't, whatever. Karma is going to come around. It's going to work out for you. It's not going to work out. Leave it there. But I was peeved. Like at the time, then I wasn't doing. Now I'm doing it. I'm like, no one is. There's nothing to separate me from him. So, yeah. Anyway, so the twisted
Yes.
lives people leave. Again, I don't think it was malicious.
No.
Right? She wasn't trying. She just couldn't see the forest from the trees. She was so close to it. Like, how might that be perceived by somebody else? So.
But it's a good example of the fact that there is different people, different stages of their journeys, different levels of evolution, of education, of knowledge, of skills, and they're all there in this very unfiltered sort of society that we live in. So
And no one is really like getting up on stage, and this is the part that makes it tough, is someone has legitimate success, right? And they get up on stage, they get asked to speak, to share their story. I love this. There's this meme. It's like I'm this guy's like, he posts, hey, I just had a call with someone on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and I came away really impressed. He shared with me how he made VP at a top tech company before the age of 30. Number one, he gets up at 4:30 a.m. every day. Number two, takes a cold shower. Number three, has a gratitude journal. Number four, he starts every day with meditation. Number five, his dad owns a tech company. And it's like no one's sharing their tax records, right? Like, and even then, as a business owner, your goal is to not make any money, right? Like, because then you're gonna. So it's just this weird fog, like of war. Who do you trust? Who don't you trust? And that's where I was like, I have a track record. You can easily track and see I've helped people make millions and hundreds of thousands. And now I'm going to layer on all this research on top of it too, because I don't know what I don't know. And I've also had my own show that I've interviewed 400 experts. And now I'm like, okay. And so our program, we actually turn that into daily, like a weekly habit log. So we can start you with a simple thing, one thing to track, and then build it. And then they morph, like, a sleep log. How many hours did you sleep? Turns into creating a bedtime routine, which incorporates 2, 3 other things we try to have. So sometimes people are like, Daryl, how do you get up at 4:30 a.m. every day and like have energy? I'm like, you don't go to bed at midnight. Ta-da! Like rocket science, Captain Obvious. Like you gotta sleep. If you're going to bed at midnight trying to wake up at 3 a.m., you're doomed to fail. Like so, you know. But if common knowledge worked, more people would have six-pack abs, $1 million in the bank. There is a deep state. There are conspiracies out there, but they're not holding us back as much as our own failings. So
I totally agree. I got a
anyway,
question on the research. So, when you went out
do
to
it.
do the research, what was your definition of success?
Well, at the time, we weren't. We were just trying to figure out like what are like it was. We were lost in the fog at first because we're just trying to find the most authoritative research out there. Like, who can you trust? And then you get into things of certain people have a bias, and so they pay for research on things, and you really have to pick apart a study. You can't just go because it's been published. Somebody else has fact checked it for me. Like you really can't. And you really can't. So in the beginning, it was more of what will the data reveal versus we just want to know like what are the levers. Like, is it all about sales? I mentioned I was going to tell some stories, so maybe I'll mention those two, a couple of them. Like one is Blockbuster versus Netflix. A lot of people are like, if I just could get sales going, I would reinvest my money in it. Blockbuster was doing 6 billion. That's a $1 billion a year. Netflix was like a garage startup. They started off just like distributing catalogs, and they would deliver the CDs, the DVDs to your house like a pizza. Blockbuster, $6 billion. They could have hired any talent, developed any tech, right? They had every advantage. They had all these locations in the market. They had hundreds, thousands of customers coming to their stores every day. Netflix, just a little mom and pop thing in like a garage that then goes into like a catalog, mail order, rental thing. Hey, what's this online stuff? Like, and they ended up driving Blockbuster into bankruptcy. Enron, right? Because in the beginning, when I was starting off as an entrepreneur, I thought that you just got to get some money going and then you're good. No, there's a lot to it, right? I mean, I was so celebratory when I helped my first client do like a couple of million, but then I started helping other people, and I was like, and even saw my old client, I was like, money's not fixing everything. There's other problems to worry about. Enron made $101 billion a year before they filed for bankruptcy. I mean, I know there's people listening to this going like, I just need like 100 grand and I'm good for the year. That company couldn't go a year on $101 billion. So money alone doesn't guarantee success, right? Newspaper subscriptions used to be considered rivers of gold. And then when blogs came out, they started drying up, and it became a matter of who has enough money. You know what I mean? Like they lost touch with the market. And that's why these things are in this, self-efficacy. Elon Musk says if you work 100 hours a week and your competitor only works 40, you'll just outwork them. And it's true, but it's not a one-trick pony. Like, again, we talk about Blockbuster, major company, 6 billion people, and they small mom and pop shop. Like I think even now, Netflix, I don't know the number specifically, but Netflix is something like 10 times the profit with like a team of 40, 60 people, whereas Blockbuster had like a couple thousand staff. So, there's just a lot of ways it can go sideways. So they lost touch. So self-efficacy is really important because even if you know the right things to do, if you don't get them done, right, or if your team is lacking, then you're just not going to get it done, right? Health issues. There's been businesses that could have changed the world, but the owner was sick and died. Like Nikola Tesla is a great example. That man was a gift to humanity, and he didn't make it for the long run. So what did we lose? So self-efficacy is at the core. Then you have to have your market intelligence because problems are markets. Okay, the problem is what like we get paid for solving problems. I'm hungry, restaurant. I'm bored, go to a movie. So it's a problem. It's typically experienced as emotional pain, but often can be physical too, like my teeth hurt, right? But there's pain you can endure and pain that's emotionally unbearable. And then there's, if that pain was like a pond, there's a pond or a lake of pain. Well, around every lake, there's lots of different birds, and some birds eat ants, some birds eat fruit and berries, some birds eat, other birds. So some birds eat fish. So you'll have a problem, and then you have different stereotypes experiencing that problem. One could be as simple as job hunting. You have homeless people that need work, and you've got high-powered, overly paid, potentially, corporate CEOs that are looking for another overly paid, high-profile position. So the problem is the same. I got to help this person find work. I want to save the world as much as everybody. These people have two different capacities to pay for a service. So then you identify them via a stereotype. I help this stereotype person solve this problem. So that's the basis of what the business is built on. You can try all the mental gymnastics you want, but if people don't want to, Blockbuster was in the business of helping me relax on my time off. I don't want to drive to a place, then go stand on my feet after I've been standing for a 10-hour shift as a waitress, right? And then have to try to paralysis by analysis, choose out of these 70,000 things. I want to sit at home with a cup of tea or a beer or something, flip through a catalog, dial a phone number, have it come to me, but that's just the disconnect on the problem that they were solving. Blogs. This is happening again. Your listenership is probably here because they're like, I'm not getting anything from mainstream media that's serving my life in any way, shape, or form. And we're going through a huge, and now they're trying to pass laws to control. It's a stupid game of cat and mouse, but it's really just help people. That's help people, I digress. I should let you guys interject at some point, but that's why I shared those in that order, because once you've done, you are a high functioning unit, you've got your market intelligence dialed in. Now it's your strategy to reach them. Today would be a bad day and age to sell fax machines as your primary business. That's strategically not very strategic, right? Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe they're more, but then what's the problem you're solving? Is it data security? I don't know. But, so it's the whole concept. Is the market growing, shrinking? Is there a technology that's coming out that's going to make you obsolete? That's the strategy. And then you have to get it out there, right? Your marketing strategy. So you got your strategic plan, how you're going to offer a unique, better, faster, cheaper, typically 2 out of the 3. You can have 2, but not all 3. It's hard to deliver on all 3 if you can, but better, faster, cheaper. It's better, but it's not cheaper, or it's better and faster, but not cheaper, or it's better and cheap, but it's not fast. You got to pick 2 out of 3. And then, and then every time a new business comes out, their goal is to try to solve the problem better than you, So.
And breathe.
Yeah, sorry.
When
Sorry, you're so quiet over there. What are you thinking? I can see.
You can see Corey's brain going. Yeah, he'll jump in and tick. I know he revs up, and then he'll just unleash when you least expect it. So, right. I got a question. When did you know that you wanted to serve businesses? How early on was that in your life?
Great question. I loved it. So I was just happy. I'd been running my martial arts school, and I was a freelancer in Japan. I lived in Tokyo 3 years. I'd done kind of like like summer. I don't know if it's a franchise, but like what was it, College Painter Pro or whatever. I've like had a newspaper. Like I'd done little things, shoveling driveways. But my first business I really feel like was fully mine was my martial arts school. And one of the things that really energized me about it the most was the testimonial. Having people come into the school. Like there was a girl that got some guy was getting, too touchy at the nightclub. She defended herself. Guards came, took him out. She was like the hero of her friend. Like, wow, girl, like, like she said it was like a movie. That just changed, her life. I had a friend, he had a drinking problem. I'd known him for a long time. He was the kind of guy that would like at the end of a party, he'd go around and finish all the half finished drinks at the party. Like before I go home, I just gotta like it was bad. And then he came and it forced him to stay sober. He's like, my wife's proud of me, my kids are proud of me, my parents are proud of me. And we weren't kids at the time when this happened, right? Like we're all grown adults now, So I just love those. I love that. I love that so much. And I was spending everything that I had on trying to make this business work and make sure I was doing the right things. And I was talking to a lot of my friends that were small business owners. One was a florist, another was a mechanic, another guy was running a satellite office in Kingston, Ontario for a company based out of Ottawa called Ottawa Kiosk. And then he messaged me. I was about to go to Japan for a month. I'd sold this. I did a promotion, traveltrainjapan.com. So it was go to Japan and in 30 days do like the highlights of what I did in 3 years. And we're going to go to this Hickson Gracie tournament. You're going to get to meet Hickson Gracie, the living legend, blah, 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 blah. So I was like leaving in a day. And Corey called me. He's like, Daryl, I just got promoted. I'm CEO of $1 million company, man. I was like, bro, it's amazing. Because we used to, his office was like above my martial arts school. So we would go, this is Canada. So, some people like marijuana more than alcohol. And we would just go and get very creative. And like, he had these massive whiteboards and I would just like whiteboard all this stuff. I was like, no, you don't understand. They made me CEO based off of our ideas. I've never been CEO before. So I'm putting you on a retainer. I'll pay you $2,500 a month. And you just need to listen in on some calls and be like my advisor a couple times a week. I was like, okay, well, I'm gone for a month. Let me think about it. Get back to you. While I was gone, I realized I was thinking about it on the plane, talking to some of the other people coming with me. They're like, Daryl, and actually one of my students helped me realize this. He's like, Daryl, how many members do we have? And I was like, oh, about 150, 170, somewhere in there. Well, how many is that like average for a business? And I said, well, maybe, yeah. Like a business needs, bakery probably needs a few hundred people. He's like, so then, Daryl, if you were helping 100 business owners, wouldn't you be having an exponential impact on the world? And I was like, yeah, that, like, and I don't need to see all the testimonials and reviews. I just want my life to have meaning. And that's kind of what first got me into that. So I came back and I was dating an English teacher at the time. And so I got free editing services. Well, they weren't free. I had to, anyways, anyways, for the adults later. So she helped me write, I call them business books for busy people. And so they're just like 50-page books, but I wrote two were books and one was actually a workshop kind of notes, like a workshop assist manual. And we put them on Amazon and one of them started to take off. Ancient Secrets of Lead Generation, your guide to better leads with less effort. And I just practicing what I preach. I marketed it and I got it to hit #1 on Amazon for the top 100 in marketing and sales, #7 for the business category overall. And this is up there with classics like, Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I mean, it's not like I held that spot for a year. I didn't, but I hit that. And then I used that screenshots that got on local television and radio. And then I had a bunch of local business owners that approached me and I put a business coaching group together. And then through the grapevine and people I knew, I actually got an offer to go to San Diego. I got offered $90,000 US a year plus 2.5% of everything I helped them make and a $25,000 signing bonus. So I used the signing bonus to pay back anyone that had prepaid their membership for my martial arts school because it was in a university town, so it was very seasonal in the sense that everyone went home for the summer. So I paid back all the paid in full people. I paid off my lease, and I went because I was interested in building the skills. And then what blew my mind is when I went, it was a fully online business. So if you had a credit card and an internet connection, and like you could be a customer. And so it really rocked my world because I just used what I had applied to help grow my business and my friends' local small businesses, but I applied it to one where there was just more zeros attached to everything, we'll say. And we did 1.6 million in 8 months, 3.2 as a company as a whole, turned them around from being on the verge of bankruptcy. And I just replicated that success a couple more times. I've been working remote since 2015 ish. So I don't know if I answered that or one another.
Holy
Man,
cow! I even don't know how to start and where to start to asking questions.
I hope that's a good thing. I hope that's a good thing.
Listen, I've got a question. I mean, I love the fact that despite of becoming livid with the guy who pretend to be just an attendee and then turned out to be a fake guru, yeah, it's amazing how you canalize your anger and put it all into these meta studies to figure out what are the 8 key critical success factors, and which
Hmm.
shows me that you're predominantly focusing on clarity and transparency to give
Yeah,
business
truth,
people. And
truth.
one of the biggest challenges, in fact, is self awareness and how to become yourself and presenting yourself as you just do, because you are extremely authentic and definitely much more energized than I am. I thought I'm already an energized person. So, how do you experience business people when they try to tap into their own genius rather than keep comparing themselves, their business with others, and trying to be cheaper or better instead of reminding themselves what is so unique about me and how can I put
Hmm.
that out into the world? So
Right.
how do you cope with these things? How do you help people to do that? Because I think this is the quintessence, this is the secret. Yeah, not a lot of people
Yeah.
are tapping into.
Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think some of it comes into introspection, so in terms of, whenever the world seems in chaos, you have to go back to the fundamental and introspection, like, so what does that mean? That means they have to learn about themselves, their strengths and weaknesses, their team strengths and weaknesses, and then they need to focus on their customers because there might be a competitor that's way better than them. But remember, we talked fast, better, cheaper. Cheap is a tough one to make it in because there's no protection from someone else coming in trying, even if they're suicidal from offering for less, and they might be suicidal, but they're going to upset you. They're going to knock over your apple cart in the process of killing themselves. So cheap is not necessarily a good way to come in. So you have to figure out, why do they choose you? Is it a convenience option? Is it like, what would like your customers? So the competitors can do, it's almost, I'm trying to think of a good quote, but I'm not really. It's just, what matters are the people that are paying you money. Are you happy? What do you want from me? You know, a lot of times people will work with you. Like, there's all these new AI tools coming out. It doesn't mean that anybody that's a writer has lost their job overnight. Some of them are having dialogues like, hey, what does this mean? Can we do better, faster, hard? Can we do more, better, faster? So it's just dialing in on the people you serve, why they come to you versus someone else. You do. It doesn't mean you can't ignore the world, though. I mean, we live in a physical world that's got, like, in some ways, I feel like that's almost, put that aside. I feel like it's a disadvantage. People get so caught up in our constructed society. Like weekends. You look outside. There's birds and the bees. None of them are like. There's no bird out there that's like, hey cat, it's Saturday. You got to come chase me Monday. I'm on my weekend. Like, I'm just, there's no squirrel that's like, oh, it's Friday. I'm not going to worry about eating. I'm just going to go play with my friends. Like, it is a daily grind. This whole weekend holiday, it's us. Like, we are outside the food chain. People forget that. Like, we are the only beings. Like, maybe we are the extraterrestrials because we don't fit into the food chain of this planet, right? So, I mean, that was just a joke, but so it's really about, you know, how do how can you do this, like Fight Club? How, if you've never been in a fight, how can you know everything about yourself? So you got to know yourself. You have to put yourself in different situations. You can do all sorts of personality tests, right? But then it really comes down to like trying to find your ikigai, which is kind of your reason for living, what you would do even if money wasn't an issue, and then marry that with something, a problem people need are willing to pay to help with. I don't know if that answers it well enough, but it comes like ikigai. I think is a good, figure out their ikigai and then try to overlap it onto something that is a problem people are willing to pay to help get fixed. Because it's not just product market fit; it's product market founder fit. Otherwise, it's like the book report you just don't want to get done, right? That you could do in 5 minutes, but you don't do.
I was just looking for my book that has the ikigai in it. Um,
Hmm.
and
Yeah. Do you want to explain the ikigai for people that don't know what it is?
Yeah, so there's 4 circles. and they all intersect. It's kind of like a genius model, but what is it? What I get paid for, what I'm the genius or really good at, what people need. Is that right? And I've just been doing it with a client, and the fourth one is help me out here, Daryl. What's the fourth one?
I'm not even sure. It's just what you love. Ikigai to me
There we
is
go.
just your passion. It's
Passion.
just the thing that you just 7 hours went by and you're still fully engaged. But
Mm.
what is, you can't necessarily get paid for that, but maybe there's a subset,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
overlap, a transferable skill.
Yeah. That's it. And where that fits into the world. What does the world need?
Right,
Where I can sit there for 7 hours and the time just blinks by because I'm just so in the zone, in flow.
right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. 100%.
Yeah.
Clearly, I can do that with talking. Oh, you guys are still here. That's great. Anyway, no, I'm kidding.
Darren, coming back what you said, that you just really want to help uh, business owners to overcome the challenges, mental barriers, whatever it is. Um, why is it so hard for people to believe in that you really have a genuine interest to help them to turn around their business? What is it? Is that a combination of their history, their past, and their lack of belief in the good in people? What would you say?
Yeah, it's tough because when you're a business owner and it doesn't matter what you do, but let's say, first you're just trying to figure out like, what am I supposed to even be doing? Often people will they love baking and everyone loves their pie. You should open up a bakery. And so they're like, yeah. And then they vision, it's like their dream house, my dream logo and all this. And so part of why getting help might be tough is because when they share their dream with people, they don't see it or they criticize it and that hurts. So we just protect it. Right. The other part is we don't want to admit, admit, what's this? They say success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. Like nobody wants to be attached to a failure. So to come forward and admit flaws is really difficult for people. Public speaking is like one of the biggest fears. So admitting publicly that you're struggling with anything, it can be a huge challenge. So there's part of that, right? I think that's a big part of it that willing to admit. They say women tend to get are more open to coaching than men typically because of that. There's more of a like a hierarchy with men, in that way. So I think that's part of it, but also just it's kind of built in. Like if I have a hair salon and you have a hair salon and we serve the same community, I can't call you and be like, hey Corey, sales are down this month. What are you doing? Because you don't want me to copy you verbatim, right? So there's that too. So it's like inherently it's an adversarial relationship with your competitors. So who do you open up to share your trade secrets and your weaknesses? So that can be part of it too, right? I think that's probably a lot of it. And then there's just I can figure it out on my own. A lot of us have been abused by different authority systems, so it's a tough, and it's like I said, like it's made to be so kind of semi complicated, like vague. You go get I have clients that have MBAs, and then they're like, I really need to figure out how to make this thing work. Like I know how to work in a big company, but how do I make a small business work? And I just can't help but think like you didn't get that for your 50 100K education. They couldn't, like it just doesn't need to be the mystery. It's just a bunch of BS layered on top of other stuff to make people I don't know. Maybe my thing sounds complicated, but I'm not sure. It's a mix of all that stuff, and it's a fear. It's a fear of failure, But the problem is that I think a big part of why businesses fail is, if hard work was enough, more people would be successful. So what happens is, I'll go through my original analogy. Somebody bakes pies. We love them. You should open up a business. Okay, they'd come with their dream logo, their dream menu, their all the furniture. Oh, I'll be in this area. This is a great part of town. Oh, I got this great unit. It's got a beautiful view. None of this is about serving the people that are going to have to pay you every month so you can afford their bills. So that's the flip of it, right? Like it's about serving a community. And so a lot of people, they get into business for their own interests, and that's where they're so attached to it. It's an emotional thing. It's my baby, right? So what happens is that they open their bakery and all their friends and family have to come make the obligatory purchase. But for family A, it's just really out of the way to go there. They love them and they would do more business, but it's just an extra trip and they just don't need blueberry pie that much, So it's like they launch, they get these sales. Now they're so busy doing, we call it feast or famine mode. They're so busy doing, there's no one bringing more people in. Now there's no work. We're starving. Let's go find some people. Oh, we get hey, we're going to cater this event. Okay, now we're busy again, but there's no more people coming, and now we're famine again. And and it's a seesaw that people go through, and and then it's like the fumbling around till you figure it out.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And yes. Totally. Um,
Okay.
so, what does your ideal future look like? I guess what are you helping to create? Because you obviously were inspired to pay for that research with those 8 researchers, and you wanted to create something. And I want to link back to when you were on the plane with your martial arts people, and you looked at the whole, and you had that insight about, well, if I have 170 martial arts students, what would it look like if I had that in a business, consulting sort of scenario,
Right.
and then I could make a lot bigger impact. So you obviously had that imprint. You went out to do the research for a reason. You wanted to get some truth. That's obviously going somewhere. So I'd love to know where you're going with this. What do you want to achieve?
Yeah. So they have missions to help create 200 new multi-million-dollar businesses because I really feel that an ethical business, that's just going to bring up the community around them and the people. Um, Yusuf Muhammad, I think his name was. He was the godfather of the whole micro lending industry. I'm Corey. I might make us look bad as men, but they did a study in India and they found that when small communities were helped, we're talking like poor, like really poor, right? Like where they need a loan to get a goat to make more milk. Small, like super small businesses, third world small business type thing. When these communities were helped, the aid, when the women became successful, they paid school fees for kids and the medicine and training for the men. They repaired the houses, they saved money for a later day. They bought tools for the men. They loaned money to relatives and stuff that needed help. When men were successful, they spent it on women, drinking, drugs, travel, and so microfinance industry was really focused on empowering women in communities. Um, Sorry, Corey, and all the other male listeners. That's what sparked the whole microfinance kind of industry was that, and it wasn't like it was exclusive to women only, right? But it was just there was a noticeable impact on that. And I just have always wanted to be a force for good. So I did the research because I wanted to know. I knew that the pandemic was going to have big ramifications. I wanted to fill gaps in my knowledge, but also that's part of what I was selling. And I had a good track record and I wanted to maintain that track record. I also spent a couple of years, I took a mini retirement. I literally went to a honeymoon tropical island with very remote access via phone, internet. Like it's very easy to not be reachable by anybody. Like palm trees, beaches, coconut. Like I did that for a couple of years, and it was just like, what am I going to do next? Like what's next thing? Money didn't really motivate me. What? So then it was just about really helping people. And again, if every business represents a few hundred people, I could have my life make an exponential impact on the world. And I just wanted to make sure I had something unique, something credible beyond just Daryl seems like a nice guy and something that would really make a difference. Because, like I said, I feel like we're on the world's on. I'm very optimistic about the future, but I feel like there's two directions we can go in where we can regress to like the ancient times where there was the family, the royal family, and then everybody that served them or was beheaded. And then we've got a really bright future, and almost I feel like we're on the precipice of a new golden era. And some of the things that we're seeing with media and with perhaps parasitic relationships between governments and big pharma as an example of an industry that could maybe be dangerous for a species somehow. That examples, just theoretical examples like big food and big pharma passing people back and forth to turn them into an ATM for life. I just things like that. I just think that we're really on the verge of a new golden era and new technology. And I don't know what we're gonna do. Like there's universal basic income sounds great, but I know, right?
Yeah.
So capitalism and communism is a battle in my mind between equality and freedom. I got those backwards, but in a communist society, everyone is equal, but no one is free because there is no reward for being better or a higher producer. But in a free society, then you are not all equal, and you can have generational advantages and monopolies because they get so far ahead. And I almost feel like it's this yin yang where it's like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, where we kind of
Mm,
fumble trying to hobble forward as a society because like any extreme of anything is bad. Um, so I don't know. I'm optimistic about the future. I want to help create 200 new multi-million dollar businesses. And so I go around and do interviews and give this info away for free. You know, I was a high paid consultant. I did high paid group coaching programs. I know that's not necessarily affordable for everybody. And I know that we've got, emerging economies. I think Indonesia's got something almost like 300 million people, booming middle class, you know. And all these people, we have to help them all. We have to help them all. I mean, people talk about overpopulation of the planet. Best thing you do is help someone, access power. Glad you could be here, Corey, by the way. And earn some money so they're not worried about their kids dying off and paying for medicine. And people, there's a lot less crimes of desperation. Everyone lives a better life. So that's really what I'm out to do. And so people can take it and run. If they want help, we have a program called Habit Hero, where it's just business coaching and mentorship done via daily habit tracking and weekly challenges. We have a habit tracker. You can either use the site to track it or print off the PDFs every week and check it off on your wall. There's points for what you get done versus not, and a leaderboard. And we try to make sure that everyone's focus is on everything. And that way, even if you sell airplanes and this person's corporate, a corporate office cleaner, they have cleaning service, you might not be able to compete in terms of revenue you make. But hey, did you do your bedtime routine yesterday? Hey, did you get any leads today? Hey, are your dashboards set up? Did you check your dashboards today? Like things like that. Like there are universal things that we can all do. You might do Pilates, I might do CrossFit, someone else might like to water ski. I don't know, but did you do something for your body today for 30 minutes? Right. So there's these universal things that we put in the habit tracker to help people. So and that's it. I just want to, I just want to help the world, get paid doing it, and just have a bunch of kids, build my. We already have lots, but we're paying off. I've got almost all the solar panels I need downstairs. I've been researching this stuff since I was 19. We're going to be, live off water from the sky with solar panels, grow some food, couple of chickens. This is all, it's all already working. So it's not like I need $7 million to retire. It's not the plan. The plan is to just be interdependent with society, you know, versus hope the government will provide everything for me. Like, no, 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 no.
mm,
I'm going to be an old man with a bunch of grandkids and a garden to tend to and maybe some animals. And we're going to own the land that we're on and have some big guns to guarantee that, it stays away. And I'm just going to, just take care of my grandkids, my food, fix the roof, make sure the water system works. We got power, and make money online, and at the same time figure out some offline things to do just to serve communities. I mean, I had to talk with my friend. We're talking about. I'm going to say this and then shut up. But I talked with my friend. This guy does like 1 million a month. We're talking about changes in currencies, reserve currencies, all this stuff. And him and I both agree unanimously without question agreed that despite the money he's making, despite having been invited to have dinner with Obama, and what if I don't care if you're an Obama fan or not, no one's inviting me to the White House for a private dinner, let's just say, okay? But his and his family's best security, regardless of what happens moving forward, is the fact that he has 6,000 people every month that come to him for help with something. That's it. It's as simple as that. That he helps them with a problem that's going to be there, even if the currencies change. There's a war going somewhere. Who knows? People are going to need help with this. And I have 6,000 people that come to me every month for help with this. And if all they can pay me with is potatoes, then they're just going to pay with potatoes. If all they can do is cut my hair for me and my kids, cut my hair, but I have 6,000 of those people. We will be okay. And so that's all I'm trying to do is just build a community that I can serve. And, spend my off time helping make babies and raise them.
That's a great life goal, vision, all the rest. Love it.
Yeah, life by design. Working
Life
on
by
it. I got
design.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working on it. I'm setting up an
Good.
Arduino, auto water, and yeah, I'm working on the whole thing.
We'll have to talk more about that offline. I have a
Sure.
question. Now, this is the Six Star Business Podcast. So, when you first heard and we met and we talked about the podcast and you thought about what Six Star is, what came to you? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I just think 6 Star is being committed to your customers as best as you can, right? The customer isn't always right, just as if your child can throw a tantrum and just be, but at the same time, 6 Star is just about that. So markets are constantly evolving. It's how many people are in market right now for a new house? It's unknown and unknowable. You can have estimates. We have estimates on that, right? How many are coming and going? But excellence is recognized by everybody. And so to me, 6 Star means pursuing excellence in solving the problem you're trying to solve for people, and staying true to that. And that also means adapting and evolving because, right, we're none of us organizes meeting with fax machines. So if you're just in the business of manufacturing fax machines, you're gonna become a relic. So that's you have to stay focused on serving, solving that problem and serving people more excellently than everyone else. And
Yeah,
that's really all you could really hope for. Over deliver.
love it. What do you see as the one of the biggest barriers to achieving that for people?
Yeah, it's people when they a lot of people when they start business, they're not coming to it as business minded people. They're coming to it as someone that wants maybe more independence or is unemployable because they're not super obedient if the rules don't make sense to them. So I think that's a huge obstacle. And then the rest is just there's some prep work. Like you do need a period of roof and ramen. Like you need some time where you're just getting by. You got a couple of hot noodles, so you're somewhat nourished. You got a roof over your head. So that way you can talk to people, get rejected by people, have some customers, get some experience, figure something out. So I think part of it is that there's like a lack of awareness of the industry or the landscape of people's options. They haven't bought their competitors' products. They haven't interviewed enough of their customers. They just haven't. They're not on the. They're not an industry expert per se. They're just good. The land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So I cut grass for my grandpa every Saturday, and now I got a grass cutting business. But so it's there's partially that, and then there's I think business is also very Shakespearean, where in Shakespeare's plays the main characters always fell victim to their greatest flaws that they often didn't address, and I think that's important. That's part of why I put the 8 critical success factors together, because it's like whatever you are neglecting is what will do you in, right? Like it's that simple. It just will. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday, and for the rest of your life, kid, you're gonna, So, I think that answered it. I mean, I could talk a lot more, but
Um, and don't feel bad talking. That's why you're here, by the way. And
I know, I know, I
and,
know.
and I love hearing people talk, especially those that are passionate about what they do. And you are passion personified. How? What would you say your genius is, Daryl?
I, you'd have to ask other people. I don't even know.
Have you asked them?
I don't even know. In different ways, that's something I probably need to do again. But I'm not sure. I'm just very committed to results and truth. Whether I have talks with friends, and they already know. Like they just tell me point blank. Like don't sugarcoat anything. Just I'll go cry about it. What I care more about is progress and truth. You know. Um, I don't know what my superpower is. Probably people, dealing with people, doing this. I try to delegate all the things that I'm not good at and build a team and share profits when I can. So empathy, maybe that's the superpower. I really care. Like it bothers me. Like that it triggers me even now when you're talking about like that guy. Like it's not even I don't even care. Like he's not gonna be more like my bills are paid. So I'm not worried about that guy running workshops and now I'm out of business. It's that I know that there's good people that are going to just, plug into him and just be, yeah, Corey, I can't hear you, but I know what you're saying. I don't have to hear it, like it. I just know that, and I've been that guy. I've like I spend the $2,000 on this weekend seminar, and I go and I'm like, I got one idea, which is a great idea, but I don't think it's $2,000. I've spent the 3 weeks to read the book. That's like that should have been one chapter. You know what I mean? I've been in the back room, and this is maybe why I'm a bit more unknown. I've been in the back room when I was in California. Some of these big gurus, there was a barbecue where a bunch of them were planning the promotion calendar, marketing calendar, and I'm making up a bunch of names, but it's like, Jerry, we're gonna launch your product in September. Francine, we're gonna launch yours in October. You know what the product is, if it works. But these are like big name people, and then you see the launches happen, and you see some comments. People, I tried it, didn't work for me. Oh, you brought a nod, blah blah blah, because so and so said, and so and so. You got like 4 big names endorsing a product, and the little guy that's just trying to make it, feed his 2 kids, he bought it, didn't work. He leaves a negative review, but it's swamped out because big name person gives it the gold sticker. I hate that. I've been that. Again, I was an orphan. I mean, I was fortunate enough I had roof and ramen, but I didn't get any, like, no one paid my school fees. You know what I mean? So as someone that's been paying my own bills since I was 16, 17, like, I got no patience for that stuff. So I take that very seriously. And especially when people come to me. That's why I like you guys want to ask me about any of those 8 factors. I can go to studies, details. This is how you do it. You know?
Well, just from this short conversation, I'd say one of your superpowers is understanding humanity.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. And in that,
translate that.
You have a really clear bullshit radar.
Oh, wow. Maybe. Maybe. I'm sure I've been fooled. I just know I'm a monkey with a smartphone, so I try not to trust myself. That's really all it is. I'm a monkey that's got a smartphone. There's a great book called The Beginning of Infinity. It's not a light read. It really is not. It's very much like a book you got to read 2-3 times. And I read it 2-3 times. And this guy, he's a godfather of quantum computing. And he does this great explanation of what science is. Science is a specific explanation that's hard to vary. So, because if go, well, okay, so I mean, people want to ask about the Garden of Eden, and what about this? Well, it's out of context. What is this? You can change the variables so well, and the story's still the same. There used to be like, why do we have seasons? Because some Greek goddess was kidnapped and she's locked away in Hades and gets raped, and so the world is sad, and that's why a winter. But she gets to go home and visit her mom. But if they had seen that there was different hemispheres, that culture would have changed that myth and make a new explanation, but you couldn't do that. So, like, one of the reasons we used to think we were the center of the universe, because that's what it looks like. Everything revolves around us. But part of how we figured out not was Galileo had a theory that was proven by a later astronomer, and it was by observing the phases of Pluto. So just like we have a full moon and a half moon and a crescent moon, not Pluto, Venus. Venus has phases too. So when we had a telescope and we could measure, the only explanation that worked to explain why those phases of Venus worked is if Venus was going around something other than Earth. And so that's a specific explanation that's shown with mathematical formulas even and geometry to show that this explanation is the only way that that result can happen. It is such a specific, right, description that if you change anything, it no longer matches up with reality. In science, Karl Popper was one of the earliest science educators. He said there is no scientific method. There is no way to guarantee scientific breakthroughs. If there was, we would have more of them and predictable interviews. But what we have is a method that we use to stop fooling ourselves. And it is a formula, P1 plus TS plus EE equals P2. Problem 1 plus temporary solution plus eliminating the errors, which we do through observation, experimentation, debate, criticism, right? Once you've eliminated all the errors, you now arrive at problem 2, or you're still at problem 1, but you've learned more about it. And that's why things like free speech and censorship are such important things. That's why I'm Canadian, but it's still why free speech is the First Amendment. If you're working from an incomplete data set, you are not able to get the best explanation that's possible. So when things are censored, when you're not allowed to talk about certain things, that limits the working data set that you have. It's like a movie when you're yelling at the character like, "Oh, he's behind the door," and you're yelling because watching the movie, but the character doesn't. That's why you need free speech, because that's prevented we've had more progress since the early 1900s to now. I forget who it is, Tim something. You wrote this book, and in it, one of the pages is like, if humanity was a 1,000-page story, all of our history of this planet, if it fit on 1,000 pages, everything that we've done since like we stopped being an agricultural based species is like the last 3 sentences on the last page of this 1,000-page novel. So everything we've accomplished is such a short window in time. So we don't know what the great filters are for humanity and our species in that. So we just gotta, you know, evidence and compassion. If we can just work from those 2 principles, what does the evidence say? All the evidence. And from a heart of compassion and love, let's move forward. And if we could just keep those fundamental, we'll be all right.
What a beautiful mission, way to move forward, isn't it? For anybody.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Beautiful. We're coming to the end. Corey, have you got any questions or comments for Daryl?
I'm not very often speechless, but this is one of the occasions where I got speechless and having troubles to describe what I just experienced over the last hour. But since you are not able to describe yourself, I would say just you're truly entrepreneur. I mean, you are smart, sharp, knowledgeable, wise. Yeah, you are passionate, multiplied with whatever x hundred, and what I sensed, what I listened, which is one of the biggest challenges for you as well as for me, is coping with injustice.
Mm,
This is the for me as well the overkill. Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, a good-hearted approach. Yeah, through empathy to cope with people, to tune into them, and then literally help today's dehumanized society to go back to the roots. Yeah, in helping,
Mm,
supporting each other, nurturing, fostering each other. Yeah, I think this is you are a unique gift to us, and thank you for being our guest.
mm. Thank you for putting this on. I mean, you guys organized it, done tons of interviews before. You'll do tons more after me. So I'm just grateful that I can come and serve for this short period of time. Hopefully, it helps some people out. Because
It will
we all,
surely.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it really will. And I know, Corey will agree with me when I say you speak to the heart of who we are and our values and our soul of Six Star. And that's why when I first met you, I was like so excited. I'm like, this is why I have this podcast, like to meet people like this and to be able to have you just give of yourself so freely. That truly is Six Star. It's selfless. And you're doing this for other people. You're not doing this for yourself. And yes, you get the rewards from it, but it's not your initial intention to just serve yourself. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for your time and everything you've given me. Now, I do have one last question, Daryl.
Fine, yeah, I'm here to serve. So
I
we're
know.
good.
So this is a question for our listeners. Is there something that you'd like to leave them with? Is there a piece of gold, a little snippet, a little takeaway, something you've learned along the way that you think would just help them maybe get over that hump or that fear or getting outside of their, mental loops or whatever?
Well, I here's what I can do. I can share with you guys if we have time. I can share a couple of things that I read every day. They're not wrong. One's maybe going to take me 20 seconds to read. The rest are pretty quick. So these are things that I just read myself every day to just try and help myself keep my eyes on price. So we already talked about the 8 critical success factors. Now, as a business owner, what's your role? So, in a lot of ways, you want to delegate as much as you can. So you're calling the shots, analyzing the stats, optimizing and communicating. So that means optimizing for quality control and communicating with your new clients, your staff, vendors, your existing clients. That's one thing that I read every day. Like, what's my role in the business? We wear many hats, but at the end of the day, your role is to serve the end user, and your job is to facilitate that event for them, right? So I think that's an important one. Another thing that I read every day, I love this quote. Every morning in Africa, when the sun comes up, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning in Africa, when the sun comes up, a lion wakes up. It knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. The moral of the story is it doesn't matter if you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. And I think that's a really good analogy for life where I talk about like there's just no such thing as weekend. You can get burnt out. So that means that you're not pacing yourself well enough, right? Like my day looks the same every day except Sundays I kind of like I allow wild cards to happen. But generally speaking, my days I always if I had to live the same day every day of my life and love who I became and what I had when I was 80, what would that single day look like? And I think that's a great place for people to start. Our Habit Hero program helps people with this. There are things that you have to change up. Again, that's why some of these big companies fail. They get into routines and they're stuck in them and they neglect things. But I think that's a really good way to look at it. And just the other thing is just time. Time is so important. I want to finish with what is my favorite poem on productivity, I think. And it goes, time is the inexplicable raw material of everything. With it, all is possible. Without it, nothing. The supply of time is truly a daily miracle, an affair genuinely astonishing when one examines it. You wake up in the morning and lo, your purse is magically filled with 24 hours of the unmanufactured tissue of the universe of your life. It is yours. It is the most precious of possessions. No one can take it from you. It is unstealable, and no one receives either more or less than you receive. In the realm of time, there is no aristocracy of wealth and no aristocracy of intellect. Genius is never rewarded by even an extra hour a day. And there is no punishment. Waste your infinitely precious commodity as much as you will, and the supply will never be withheld from you. Moreover, you cannot draw on the future. It is impossible to get into debt. You can only waste the passing moment. You cannot waste tomorrow. It is kept for you. You cannot waste the next hour. It is kept for you. I have said the affair was a miracle. Is it not? You have to live on this 24 hours of daily time. Out of it, you have to spend health, pleasure, money, content, respect, and the evolution of your immortal soul. Its right use, its most effective use, is a matter of the highest urgency and of the most thrilling actuality. All depends on that. Your happiness, the elusive prize that you are all clutching for, my friends, depends on that. If one cannot arrange that an income of 24 hours a day shall exactly cover all proper items of expenditure, one does muddle one's whole life indefinitely. We shall never have any more time. We have, and we have always had, all the time there is, by Arnold Bennett on how to live on 24 hours a day. And I just think that if people manage to schedule their day in 10-minute, 30-minute blocks, you'd be infinitely more productive. If you were on social media and you're like, am I using this or is it using me? YouTube, Netflix, right? I think that those are some good places for people to focus and think about.
Thanks. Thank you for giving of over an hour of your time with us.
Of course.
Wow.
And,
Of course.
the universe conspired for us to be here at this moment in time. And I know for me, it's going to be quite an inflection point. There's things that you've said today. There were answers to gaps in what I needed. And I know that this is probably the same for Corey. And this is the gift that you've brought. And I just want to thank you. Really grateful.
Yeah, grateful for you guys. Yeah, we all need each other. Without you two, I'd just be talking to myself in a room.
Exactly. It's been an
Lovely.
absolute pleasure. Thank you, Daryl.
Thanks a lot,
Honor and
Daryl.
pleasure.